Today we're going to talk about third person point of view. So if you were with me last week, we talked about first person point of view and why that is the most popular or tends to be one of the most popular points of view. Today we're going to talk about third person, which is the most common point of view. It's what, if you pick up a book, you go to a bookstore, you pick it up, most likely it's written in third person point of view. So stay with me and we're going to talk about that today.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julia Monte channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julia Monte. I'm a women's fiction author, and also on YouTube I give some writing advice for those of you who are dreaming of writing your own book, who have started writing your own book and just could use some tips on how to best do it, or how to work on your craft, or how to stay inspired to make sure that you get your book done. So what we're going to talk about today is third person point of view. So we have first person, we have second person, and we have third person. So what does that mean? Well, first person, as I mentioned last week, is the I point of view, the we point of view. It's when you're speaking to the reader from the perspective of the character, of the main character, or multiple main characters. If you're jumping, sometimes, let's say, from chapter to chapter, you are moving from one character's head to the next, but you're still staying in first person. So that is a possibility. Usually it's just one character, but you're staying in that person's head, and it's all from that person's perspective. Second person is a very uncommon perspective to use, and that's because it's the you point of view. It's the whole story is the author telling you what you're doing, so it's really kind of a bizarre and uncomfortable sort of point of view. You go to the store, you look at the milk, you decide you want to buy soy milk instead, you go to the cash register. It's kind of weird, right? Because it's all what you are doing, and at some point it just starts to feel like, well, I'm not doing this. This is a very strange point of view. But it is used occasionally, and sometimes it could be effective depending on what it is that the character is that the author is doing or wants the reader to experience. But it's just unusual. Third person is the most common, and third person is divided into 3 different ways of writing the third person. So let's talk about that. Okay, the first type of third person is the third person limited. So what does that mean? It means that it's limited to one character again. So it's very similar to first person, except that you are using the third person pronouns, he and she, and so forth. And it's why do that then, right? Why not just use first person? It does give you some advantages, because you are not, the narrator is not the character. You're still telling the story about this character, which he did. But the narrator and the main character are almost married, right? And that they are just that close in telling the story. However, you still do have that little bit of distance where you're not you're not the character. You're not in that I point of view. So in romance, when I started writing romance, this is what I think all the romances that I read were third person limited, where you are in that character's mind the whole time. You basically know what the character knows. You're limited to what you can write, because if the character doesn't know that, you don't know it either, right? You can't say it either as the narrator. So that's third person limited. So again, you're very, very close to the character, and you only know what the character knows. With third person limited, it is a little bit more natural to jump from one head to the next, but you do want to warn the reader. So you don't want to just in one paragraph be in character A's head, and in the second paragraph be in character B's head. There are authors that do this. It always jars me. It just pulls me out of the story, thinking, well, wait a minute, I thought I was I thought it was A, right? And now I'm looking at what B is looking. How does, it's just not, it just doesn't feel comfortable to me. And what you can do though is to wait until you get to a scene change and then change POVs to character B, character C, whichever one you want to use, or you can wait till the end of the chapter. I like to have clean chapters. I almost always have one character per chapter if I am going to be changing POVs. I stay in my third person limited, so that's one thing you want to do. You want to make sure that if you are writing third person limited, you stay in that, and then you can change, change characters to look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so that's third person limited. Okay, the next type of third person is third person omniscient. So what does that mean? Omni means many. Okay, so it's many perspectives. The second part, so omniscient, or I don't know how you would say it, but SCIENT, that means all knowing or aware. So all knowing and multiple, many people. So it just means that you as the narrator are aware or all-knowing of everything that is happening. This point of view is very interesting because the narrator is almost like another character in the story. They are the God figure that knows everything that has happened, anything that's going to happen. It's not very common anymore, but a lot of the literary novels of the past had this type of voice. And again, it's like the narrator is almost a character. The narrator has opinions about the characters. So if you are going to write in this point of view, you want to definitely maintain that throughout, and you want to early on show that this is the point of view that you're using, so that the reader gets used to you using this point of view. Okay, and they look forward to like your commentary and the things that you're saying. So it can be interesting, and it can be fun. I've never written from that point of view, but I definitely would like to try it, not for publication. I think I'd just like to try it just to see what it feels like to write from an omniscient point of view, just to try it once, because I think part of the fun of being a writer is experimenting with all the different types of point of views and all the different ways of writing. Okay, and the third way to write third person point of view is the objective way. Okay, so what does that mean? To me, it has this almost Hollywood-like feel where the camera zooms in and out of different characters' lives. So it does have more of that wide angle feel to it, but it's not like the omniscient point of view. It does not have any the narrator does not have any opinions. In fact, they're completely objective. That's why it's the objective point of view. All they're doing is showing you what's happening, but the narrator is completely removed. They're just showing you the things that are happening. So to me, it just has sort of that Hollywood feel of the camera going in, focusing on a scene, pulling out, focusing somewhere else, where it just feels like almost like reporting what's going on rather than being a part or getting close to the characters, because you're not close to the characters. You don't have that closeness that you have with third person limited, and you also aren't really close to the narrator because the narrator is not interjecting anything into the story. So it can be more, can have that sort of maybe a colder feel to it because you don't have that closeness. But that is another type of third person point of view. Okay, and two things that you should remember about choosing your point of view. It's one of the big things that you decide on when you are writing a story. It's actually one of the first things that you decide, like, whose story is this? Whose story am I going to tell? And am I going to stay in that one person's point of view, or do I want maybe other characters' point of view so that they could show a little bit more of what they feel about the main character? Or do I want to have more to say myself as a narrator? Do I just want to do first person and stay in that one character's point of view? So you as the author get to choose how we're going to view the story, right? And that's what we're really playing with here, is how are we viewing the story? How are we, whose eyes are we using to see the story, and whose mind are we listening to as the story is going forward? So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you choose the point of view that just feels the most natural to you, the one that you really like. So definitely play with point of view and try different things, but whatever feels the most natural to you, and whatever fits the genre the best. So that some genres just lend themselves better to a certain type. Again, like romances, when I wrote that, they do lend themselves very well to that third person limited. However, there are also some first persons, and when I actually stopped writing pure romance and moved on to chick lit, and I did jump to that first person, and I thought it was great to be able to try a different point of view. And I actually ended up really liking it. And it's probably what I write best, is when I write in that first person point of view. Again, I've never tried the other ones, and I don't think they would fit the genre very well. So I probably wouldn't use it, but I might just have fun with it and experiment. So try different ones and then choose the one that you think is going to work best for you as the author and in the genre. The second thing that you want to remember is that you should stick to whatever you choose. Okay, so if you choose third person limited, that's what your whole novel should be like. That's the point of view you should be using. It's not that you can't switch, and I'm actually I wrote and put it away, probably because it doesn't work as well using first person for the main character and using third person limited for the other characters in the novel. And it's a little bizarre. If you do it immediately, the reader will get used to that, and they'll expect, like, okay, every time I'm in the main character's head, it is her, the I story. And when I am in the other characters' heads, I'm in the third person limited, right? So it could work as long as you told the reader at the very beginning, or you showed the reader at the very beginning, that this is the style that you're using. But, again, if that's the style that you're using, stick to that style all the way through, right? So you don't want to change things on the reader because you don't want to confuse them. And it is confusing if the author does one thing in chapter 1, and chapter 2 they're doing something completely different. Chapter 3 they're doing something different again. It's just odd. Your reader will get frustrated and they'll probably just stop reading because it's too much work, right? To try to figure out what's going on and whose mind we're on and who we're cheering for and who we're, when we read a book, we really want to identify with a character. And that's why you use point of view, right? So that's why we use that. All right, now let's talk about some of the benefits of using third person. So, why use third person instead of first person? Well, third person has some advantages that you can experience more. You can give the reader more of an experience than if you are just in first person. So with third person, you can describe things a little differently. Again, you are not the character. A lot of times you are seeing things from the character's point of view, but as you move forward, you can definitely describe other things, right? You can describe the weather, and then of course then you're going to say, if you are in third person limited, the character is going to notice that, and maybe it can feel a certain way, right, to that character, but you're still describing things outside of the character. It gives you just a little bit more freedom. With third person limited, again, you're going to be a little bit more limited, and as you move to either objective or omniscient, you're going to have a little bit more, definitely more freedom to describe everything else that's out there. Outside of the character. You're not limited to just what the character sees. So that's one of the benefits of third person. It's just, it gives you a little bit more freedom. Okay, and the second benefit, I think, is that it allows you to use a different voice. So you're not just limited to that character's voice and the way the character speaks and all of that. You can have your own author style, your own voice as the narrator, and that can be a little bit easier to do if you're in third person than if you're in first person. Because if you're in first person, again, the style and the vocabulary, everything is going to be what that character uses. So you're really stuck there. Where with third person, you can have a little bit of a different style, right? It's not only the character's voice that's important. You have more. You can use more variety. You can really develop your own language, your own style a little bit better. But I think the thing to remember is that point of view is, again, what opens up the world to the reader. It shows the reader the world of the character, and how to see it, how to think about it, how to experience it. So the thing to do is to make sure that you are choosing the point of view that works best, that you like best, that will show your story in the best light, and then just go with that. So it doesn't matter if it's first, third, or even second. Okay, so as long as you enjoy it, and as long as you can tell the story in a way that will capture the reader's interest and keep them reading the book. So give it a try, see what you think. If you haven't used third person, if you have, you probably have, because again, it is the most common point of view. But let me know what you think, which one works best for you, which one you like best, and leave me a comment. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and I will see you again next Friday.